What's up, my fellow weekend warriors? Today we're gonna do a spinach and ricotta pizza with some Virginia ham. We're gonna do it in our Ooni Pro, and I'm trying out a brand new pizza dough recipe, so we'll see how that goes. But first I gotta get the Ooni Pro lit up, so let me show you guys how I start this thing up. If you come around to the back side, this is where you put your fuel in. And today I'm using some lump charcoal. I really like using lump because there's not as much ash. I'm gonna use one of these tumbleweeds. I'll have a link in the description below. I use these all the time for my drum smoker, my charcoal grills, and now for this. So we're just gonna light this end. And we're gonna drop it right in. And I'll give it a minute or so, let that charcoal start to catch before I put the rear lid back on. Then once the lid goes on, we can really get a nice draft going through there to speed up that charcoal. And then I'm gonna put some hickory wood chunks on there to get a nice roaring flame for our pizza. All right, so while that's warming up, I've got my pizza dough out on the kitchen counter, kind of warming up. I just took it out of the refrigerator, and let me show you how I made the dough. Exact amounts will be in the description below. So this pizza dough recipe starts with 1.5 cups of warm water. It's gonna be 1 teaspoon of honey. This is gonna give the yeast something to eat. So we'll get that out of there. Next up, 1.5 teaspoons of active dry yeast. So there's 1 teaspoon. And then a 1/2 teaspoon. And then we're gently gonna mix this together, help that yeast get dissolved. We don't want it to be sitting on the bottom. Kind of want it into the water so that when we put our flour in, it all mixes really good. All right, so now we're gonna add in our flour. I'll start this out with a fork, and then we'll have to use our hands. We just want to mix this until it kind of comes together. If you have a stand mixer, go ahead and use that. I'll be using my hands. So that's just using the fork to get it started. And now we're going to come in and start to work it. Want to get into a loose ball. Let that water absorb. So literally after about a minute, this should be formed into a loose ball. There isn't a whole lot of flour left. All that water has absorbed. So now what we're going to do is cover this with some plastic wrap, like so. And let this rest at room temperature for 15 minutes. All right, after we've let it rest for 15 minutes, we're gonna take off the plastic wrap. And now we're gonna add in 1.5 teaspoons of salt. This is what gives the pizza crust its strength. So we're gonna get that in. And we're gonna start to work it into our dough and start kneading this. If you're doing this in a stand mixer, probably do it for about 2 or 3 minutes until it's smooth, not sticky. I'm gonna do it by hand until however long that takes. Okay, that really took not too long, maybe 3 or 4 minutes. Let me just get this off of my stove. But you can see for the most part here, it's not sticking to my hands. It's really got a nice texture to it here. So I've cleaned out this bowl, and I'm just gonna very lightly get the edges with some vegetable oil spray. We're gonna set it in our bowl, just like that. That spray is gonna keep this from sticking. I'm going to put that plastic wrap that we used earlier right back on top. Nice and tight, don't let any air get in there. And then we're gonna let this rest again for about a half hour to an hour, or until it doubles in size. So it's been 1 hour. I'm gonna take off the plastic wrap. You can see that rose nicely. And at this point, what you could do, this recipe will make 4 pizzas. So you could divide this up into 4 now and then put it in the refrigerator for up to 3 days. I don't have enough room in my refrigerator to break it up into 4 and have different containers, so I'm just gonna put it in this container and then I'll break it up in 4 about an hour or 2 before I'm ready to throw it in my Ooni Pro. So I'm just gonna pick it up. Put it in here, put the lid on, and then in the refrigerator for 3 days. So today is Wednesday. This will be ready for us on Saturday. All right, our charcoal's ready. So let's put in our chunks of hickory. I like putting in the chunks instead of big logs because I can spread them out across the whole charcoal tray. So we'll put one here, one over in that corner, one right there. And now when those catch flame, we're gonna get a nice even flame across the whole oven going up towards the front. So we get this lid on. And from here, it's just gonna take a minute or 2 to get that up to temperature. I'll cook a pizza anywhere from 500 to 900 degrees, doesn't matter to me. So let's get that lid on. All right, it's been about another minute. Let's see what we got. See those flames raging out of there. So we're getting up around 700 in the back. 450 right up here in the front. So I know that when I put this door back on, it's gonna be ready to go by the time my pizza's ready. So let's make a pizza. All right, just a little bit of all-purpose flour on the board. I also like to take my dough ball and just dredge that in flour. Put that down right there. A little bit over top so my fingers don't stick. Then I'll just take my fingertips and just start to kind of press it out. And if you can, leave some indents in there because those might turn into those nice airy pockets. I'm still learning how to do this myself, so it's definitely not perfect. All right. Do this side, same way. And I'm pushing out towards the edges. And I'm gonna try and leave this crust, some of that air and gas still in there. So we might get a little bit of a fluffy crust. Flip it over one more time. And I just take right here, right under where the crust is. And I'll put my hand here, just pull and stretch. And I can turn it. We'll just do this a couple times. Flip it over. Do this again with our fingers. And now I'll give it its final stretch. You can make it as thin or thick as you want. Thinner pizzas you can make bigger, thicker you'll make smaller. And now before I transfer to my peel, I'm just putting a little bit of cornmeal down. Don't put too much, this cornmeal will burn at those really high temperatures. So we'll move this over to our peel. Give it one last stretch. We'll get this out of the way. All right, now for our toppings. Here's some pizza sauce. It's already got all the oregano and garlic and stuff in it. It's a store-bought brand. I like a lot of sauce on my pizzas, actually. So, turn this. I'm just gonna give it a little bit of a shake, make sure it's moving. There we go. All right, now for the ricotta cheese. Just gonna use my hands. This is leftover. We made some lasagna the other night that was amazing, but we had all this leftover ricotta cheese. So we're gonna put that down. Put as much or as little as you like. A little bit of salt and pepper, just to season up that ricotta. Now I've got a couple of these fresh mozzarella cheese balls. Just sprinkle these in. Okay, now I've got some of that delicious Virginia ham. Put a little bit of ham on there. You can put whatever you want, pepperoni, no meat at all. Now for a little bit of spinach. This should wilt up almost instantly in there. Just a little drizzle of olive oil over top of that spinach, like so. And it's still moving, so let's make a pizza. Let's get this guy in there. We'll do this in real time just to see how long it takes. Got it kind of up towards the front because it's really hot back there. So that crust is really puffing up nice, but I don't want it to burn. So we just keep spinning. The one nice thing about having that honey in there, the sugar, kind of helps that crust brown a little better compared to if we didn't have any sugar in there. I'm thinking that's done. Let's let it kiss the flame. Look at that. Awesome looking pizza. Let's cut into it and see how we did. All right, that's a good looking pie, guys. Nice puffy crust, real thin on the bottom. Nothing really burnt, so that's good. Let's cut it up and have a taste. Here's a better look. Not too bad, I like that a lot. Give it the fold test, because that's how I like to eat it. Look at that underneath. Now I gotta have a bite. Here we go. And hey, if you like this Ooni pizza oven, check out one of these other two videos I did right there, and I'll see you over there.